welcome. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun because our girl Lucy Pyre is back. And she dropped a mammoth of a video that we are going to talk about because, one, she's hilarious, 11 out of 10. You should subscribe to her. Two, she's usually not far from the mark. So this is big. The tragic and totally preventable decline of Final Fantasy XIV. So hot takes. I don't know what to expect with this. It's going to be good. If you're new here, hi, my name's PB, PBs, PBG. Listen, whatever. I'm cool. Call me whatever. And we're going to get silly because it's Lucy. Let's be real. So we're going to watch this. We're going to pause it. We're going to talk about it. If I agree, disagree. Usually her videos, again, are on the marks and a little spicy. So here we go.
Hold on, you sick freak. Did you click on this video expecting to see criticism of God's most perfect game, Final Fantasy XIV? How dare you even imply it has problems that could use fixing? 14 has the best gameplay, the best job design, the greatest community, by the way, that your eyes have ever seen. And because my sense of self is inextricably tied to this game, I consider any criticism about it a criticism of me. So I'm going to be very upset if you have something negative to say, mister. Or at least, that's how it used to be. Back in the day, you couldn't say anything about Final Fantasy XIV without the game dev riding army breathing down your neck. But these days, I see videos criticizing 14 everywhere.
Ew, pro
They're practically the only 14 videos coming out these days. And by
reminder, we don't support sex pests ever. So yeah, like, if we could just pretend Pro Jared's never been in the community, he's not here, he's not part of it.
Making this one, I feel like I'm jumping on a bandwagon of sorts. Please, look at my credentials. I swear I'm not a trend Andy. I have a long and fleshed out history of lovingly shitting on this game. That is, until one day, I stopped. I quit making videos about 14. I didn't talk about it on stream anymore. If somebody asked me when I'd play it, I'd laugh nervously while chat spammed clueless. I developed a script of sorts. Whenever people would ask me why I stopped playing, I told them that I burnt out. I told them that turning it into my job made playing it feel like work and that I just needed some time apart. But after literal years have passed, I realized that I was wrong. It's not that I was burnt out on 14. It's not that making videos about it ruined my passion for it. Those videos were made because I had passion in the first place. It turns out I lied. I didn't stop because I made it my job. I stopped because 14 has done nothing worth being passionate for. So let's talk about that.
That's a little strong.
Our conversation is gonna take a hot second, which means that at some point I'm bound to have an opinion you disagree with. Feel free to run to the comments and write essays about how wrong I am because my autism enables me to enjoy reading unhinged manifestos about Final Fantasy XIV. Just keep in mind that despite popular opinion, I don't want the game to die. I want to see it rise out of this slump.
Do you know that's one of the biggest common things I see? Warcraft, if people disagree with you, they'll just say, you suck, Warcraft sucks, die. Final Fantasy XIV, it's paragraphs. It is paragraphs on why you were wrong, terrible, incorrect. She's right.
And go back to being the joy to play that it once was. Other than that, there will be very minor and vague spoilers for the story, so if you're a huge stickler for that, you might want to head out. Or don't. I like when people cry about spoilers they were already warned about. It gets me all hot and bothered. Oh yeah? You didn't know
Lucy.
that they fight dragons in Heavensward? Keep going, I'm almost there. Anyway, no more preamble, roll the damn clip. If I'm gonna talk about the problems with this game, I have to start with the game direction. 14 is not a difficult game and never really has been, which means I'm saying a lot when I tell you that the game has been gradually dumbing down, simplifying, and streamlining gameplay so that the player virtually never experiences failure. Let me put this in Joseph Anderson terms. If Elden Ring had a problem with making things too difficult to keep their reputation of try-hard gameplay alive, then 14 has the opposite problem. 14 wants to make things piss easy so that even a paraplegic chicken with Alzheimer's can keep up. Trust me, I've broken into Square Enix headquarters and I've seen the chicken. It's
and yet
crazy
I disagree.
shit. This stretches into every part of the base game, including dungeons, raids, hell, even old content isn't safe. They've been sent to Yoshi P's veterinarian practice to be declawed, defanged, and of course, utterly fucking neutered. Let me give you an example. One fateful day while playing 14, I got cued into Titan Normal. A very nostalgic primal, great music,
That's fair.
overused chicken nugget memes, but I can forgive him for the sins of Larry Zor. Now imagine my surprise when the new player fell off the edge, and 3 seconds later, I was able to res them. Right! I forgot having unique mechanics in fights might be too difficult for new players. So glad that's gone. And then I got the Aerie
That's fair.
as my dungeon. And in the fight against Nidhogg, I realized there's no Morristinian there. I guess the devs thought casting Cure
Wait, he's
once
gone?
or twice on him was too hard for the healers to handle. Never mind how that fucks with the lore or emotional impact. Just get rid of any failure point. It's
I
too
like that
risky.
dungeon.
What's really ironic and funny about this is that they've tried to backtrack recently. Don't get too excited though, it's the bare minimum. They made the new level 90 to 100 dungeons a bit harder than they were before. Stress on a bit, not hard enough that you can't figure it out in the first run and then never have to think about it again, but still, that's progress, right? Well, in my opinion, it's too little and way too late. Now, the case for why is hard to crack, but after decades of research,
I disagree
think I
with this
know the
point.
answer. After snorting my 10% off with code LucyGamerSubs powder, I astral projected myself straight to Japan to play 5D chess against Yoshi P himself. My 1 million IQ mind translating his Japanese to perfect English before the words even left his mouth. And after 10 hours of pure strategy, I placed him in checkmate and was bestowed with the information, the sacred agenda of— It was for money. It really is that simple. If game easy, more people play game. If more gamers play, then more is money. Shareholder happy. Yay. It feels
Way off base. Like, not even in the right ballpark. The reality isn't that the game is getting easier. Those dungeons are quite a bit harder even before they changed those old dungeons. Final Fantasy XIV isn't making money because the game is easy. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The game suffers from not having enough action. So for a player to make it to a dungeon, they are hours in, let alone 90 to 100 in. Like, yes, they do stuff for money. Very much. The shop is a really good example. Still having the monthly subscription when the shop is that prevalent is a choice. Game easy for money? It's actually quite natural to watch a player go from easier to hardest. That's how dungeon systems should work, through expansions that require you to go from A to B, right? Like if we use World of Warcraft can't do that because they don't want you going from A to B. They want you going from Dragonflight to War Within. So they have to keep a balance. And again, World of Warcraft's dungeons are fucking easy. They actually went backwards once during Cataclysm, made them fucking hard, and had to roll it back. So this isn't a Final Fantasy problem, it's an MMO problem. Not money. So definitely off base.
like these game devs are truly terrified of losing your sub. And that means they're scared of anything that might drive off a new player. Anything that might take away that hit of dopamine that keeps you playing in the first place. They never want you to experience a negative emotion while playing their game. So what do? They take out challenge. They ask less of you. They give everyone the tools to survive so that if the healer is a literal toddler banging on the keyboard, you can still finish the duty without kicking them out. Why do you think Tenchi Jin was changed? Why is Black Mage getting more and more instant casts? Why did they decide pressing Kaiten before Midare was too difficult? Why else would they refuse?
I feel like this is a very to the point mark. Black Mage is very difficult to play. Making it more accessible to some players is not necessarily bad. Oh, they added some instant casts. Well, yeah, because everything a Black Mage does is based on a 4-second timer, and if you fuck it up, you fuck up the entire rotation, your DPS drops significantly. Maybe that was just bad design. Lucy, I'm sorry, I'm not agreeing with you so far.
Used to nerf Picto despite how unhealthy its numbers turned out to be for the endgame. If a job requires skill, it might drive the shitters away. And Square Enix can't have that. But their idea of making things easy to keep players is flawed. And to my shock, Yoshi P agrees with me. There's this nice little quote from him recently where he talked about how if a side-scrolling game doesn't have holes to fall into, then there's no fun in playing it. I tell you, viewer, I cried tears of joy. Finally.
I agree.
Yoshi understands. He's gonna do it, guys. He's gonna fix the game. And when I played the new dungeons, I felt that he was starting to fix that part of the game. The new normal trials were challenging in a fun way. I'll give them credit where it's due.
The Dolja was a great fight.
They tried to increase the difficulty for this expansion, even if it's slight. And it's a great change, and I appreciated it, but
Normal
with the
dungeons
state that
shouldn't
job
be.
design is in, I'm not really sure it matters. You'll hear other people say that jobs have become more and more homogenized over time, and I'm not gonna disagree with them. It's bad for tanks, it's real bad for healers, and to hear you DPS mains tell it, it's not going too good on your side of town either. And maybe this is a controversial take, but here's the way that I see it. If I can level each healer, one after the other, and I barely have to change my approach to gameplay, I think there's a problem. Even if the encounters are
I agree.
marginally more difficult, the devs forgot that the core gameplay of a job is what creates someone who mains it and keeps playing the damn game. And the thing is, they used to understand that. Scholar was a busy mess in Stormblood, but it was my favorite iteration of the job to date. Astrologian was an RNG-dependent job, but making the best out of a bad card pull was part of the class fantasy. Heavensward Dark Knight's Dark Arts required some thought, but god if it wasn't fun for the people who enjoyed actually managing their mana. Bit by bit, they've been stripping
Yeah,
off
I've
the
never-
things that make jobs different, and Summoner in particular got a
I've never played Dark Knight as is, and I agree though. We should feel a job or a class specificity to it. Again, nothing plays like Black Mage, which is not a bad thing. Regardless of eventually it might need to be a little tweaked, and I'm not against that. But the classes I tend to enjoy are the classes that feel different. So yeah, like I have to agree. You've got to feel different when you're doing the jobs. This is a good point.
complete rework. Nowadays, if you like Dot, you can play Bard, I guess? Yes, I am well aware that this is God's most unpopular opinion. But seriously, why did they do Old Summoner dirty like that? I'm saying this as someone who never mained the job, because I don't have to. I'd be pissed if it happened to my main, and with Healer it kinda did happen to my main, so I'm sorry. But I do think it was a middle finger to that player base, and the bare minimum they could have done was make a Dot job that would replace it. But they didn't. Past Summoner mains got screwed, and there's no sign that they'll ever be unscrewed. They are permanently being by the massive dick of the job designers. And yeah, I know the player numbers were low, I know many people were dissatisfied that it didn't live up to the summoning lore, I know the Dot playstyle was an acquired taste. But was the solution to that to completely nuke a playstyle out of the game and leave those fans with no replacement? It's sad because, you know, they could have done things differently. For example, maybe a little less funding into the scam known as Blue Mage and a little more into creating another Arcanist spinoff? No? We're gonna keep making limited jobs? Okay, I guess I'll go kill myself. But time and time again, the devs
Yeah, I don't
have
like
shown
limited
that they
jobs.
will choose the path of least resistance. And what they replaced Summoner with was by far the easiest job to play in the entire game. Sure, having a couple jobs that are brain dead isn't a bad idea, but you wish
That's
to
true, you
replace
need it.
one of the sweatiest dot time optimizing spreadsheet maxing player populations with that? But even this is nothing in the face of the greatest consequence to making everything easier to play. And if you're a healer main, you already guessed it, the total death of the Trinity system. And no, I'm not talking about the religious one. Let's think about the general premise of the Trinity. You have tanks, healers, and DPS. DPS and healers can't take damage for shit, so they need tanks in order to not get DP double-fisted by any roided chocobo that looks in their general direction. Tanks need healers because even though they're the swinging schlong alpha podcast chat of the team, they're only human. They can take more hits, but that doesn't make them immortal. Of course, DPS need healers because 90% of them suck at the game and they need someone to wipe their ass for them, as is the law of any MMO. And finally, tanks and healers need DPS because they don't want to spend 2 hours throwing cotton balls at the enemy until it finally finally keels over. And up until Shadowbringers, the Trinity was alive and well, gently suckling on one another's teats in the most beautiful little throuple you've ever seen. That all changed when the Blood-Wedding Nation attacked. Do I jest? Only a little bit. Warrior is far from the only problem with the Trinity system
agree.
right now, but it was the first big blow, and the trend has only worsened with time. When I was still playing healer, anytime I got a warrior in my team, I would begin the 5-stage process of grief, because I knew I was about to have the most mind-numbingly boring dungeon experience of my goddamn life. There is no skill involved with carrying as a warrior.
There's an easy solution. Nerf the heal. Nerf the heals that the warrior gets. I agree with her actually on this one. She's right. And the Trinity is something that we should be protecting, but it's also it's what creates the team aspect, right? You need a team. You need a quarterback. You need a kicker. I don't know fucking football. You see what I mean? You need that. So I actually agree. Nerf the shit out of it, personally.
It's incredibly easy to press Blood-Wedding on cooldown. And if you press it on cooldown, you win, whether you have a healer or you don't. In fact, if you want to be a real jackass, there's a fun little prank you can play on the party. If the healer ever dies, you can make sure you don't use any of your tools to keep the DPS alive and then proceed to solo the boss, flexing your EP in front of their corpses, forcing them to wait half an hour for you to finish one enemy. Very fun. I love when that happens. And if the warrior is sentient enough to use their healing tools on the DPS, then it's straight up optimal to ignore the Trinity and run a dungeon with a warrior and 3 DPS instead. After all, DPS is king in this game, and for whatever reason, Daddy P has decided that healers should have the least of it. Nowadays, warrior isn't the only problem child. This plague of adding cracked healing tools to non-healer kits has only festered. Paladin also has incredible self-sustain, Gunbreaker has respectable self-sustain, Dark Knight is... okay, well, there's an exception to every rule, but
I would only kind of nerf the Paladin one. Honestly, it's okay. You can't solo a dungeon with it, and to be fair, Paladin feels like a more beginner tank class anyway. I don't know. I don't know. Really little nerf.
The point is, the plague has turned into a pandemic, reaching even the DPS. Reaper has a heal over time, Dancer has an AoE heal, Summoner has an AoE heal, Pictomancer has a fucking shield. Am I missing anyone? Healers themselves keep getting new healing tools when they already have more healing than they'll ever need, as long as they play in a party that has a pulse. People with an inflation kink must love this trend, because with the amount of bloat you have in healers' kits, I doubt they're ever able to play this game fully soft. Yeah, but Lucy, that's just in dungeons and normal mode content. That doesn't matter. Only hardcore stuff matters when it comes to balance. Follow Yoshi P's advice, and if you want to have fun as a healer, go play Ultimate. First of all, I hate this reasoning, because what you're really saying to me is this. Healers shouldn't be allowed to enjoy the game unless they're going sweaty try-hard mode. But hey, don't worry. I got you covered on that front. Because Ultimate has already been cleared without healers. Those are like the top 0.0000001% of players. Not everyone could do that. Yeah, and I also don't know how to hack into Square Enix's mainframe and find the forbidden ERP logs between GMs. Is that a skill issue on my part, or do you think it's by design? Fact of the matter is, if the devs didn't want you clearing without healers, they wouldn't make it possible no matter what you did. They've gone back and fixed things where tanks weren't necessary. In the case of healers, they just don't care. And neither does the majority of the player base, it seems. I suspect it's because they don't want their overpowered healing toys yanked away, or because they don't play healer and thus don't give a shit. But hey, it keeps happening.
And it's not even because of survival. That's the worst part. There are some self-heals that DPS have for survival, and it makes sense. But these extra heals are not for that. The game isn't hard enough in the open world to need it. I said what I said. This game lacks action in its regular world. So she's 1,000% right on this one.
And will continue to happen. The most recent Savage tier was cleared without healers. I think on week 2. Very ordinary stuff, perfectly healthy for the game. Wait, oh shit. I have an incoming voice message from Yoshi P. Do any of you guys understand Japanese? 椅子に座ってがいい。貴様らの新しい日常が来たのだ。
Oh my god.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, healers don't like Yoshi's cuck chair. In fact, healer disappointment has reached such an insane level that there's a thread on the official forums with over 1,000 pages. Healers are pissed, and the devs have been turning a blind eye to it since 5.0. 5 years. 5 years healers have been left in this state with no promise of balance or even changes to their DPS kit to at least give them something, anything to do while the warrior main solos by breathing. And if I sound gamer rage mad, it's because I am. I loved healing in this game, goddamn, but I was obsessed with it. Talked about it all
like
the time.
healing in this game too.
I started my fucking career over it, so yeah, pardon me if I'm a little pissed, but I'm not going to apologize for having passion about a game I've put years of my life into. The devs have two choices if they actually care about fixing this. They can either bring the roles back into balance with one another and restore the Trinity, or they can admit they hate dealing with healers and just axe them entirely from the game. I'd take either one at this point. At least that would be proof that the devs have a direction in mind and that they're pursuing it with confidence, but for now, we're left with wishy-washy healer kits that only ever get fun when the party is really, really bad at playing the game. And considering how easy the content is, yeah, that usually doesn't happen. But I don't see this metaphorical genie being put back into the bottle. I don't think these devs are strong enough. Now that they've given tanks and DPS these strong heals, they're not gonna take them back. Most warriors defend their overpowered job tooth and nail, and I mean, who can blame them? I don't understand how playing something practically unkillable is fun for them, but whatever. Some people being the married of an MMO. I can't criticize them because I sort of joined them. I switched to Gunbreaker in 6.0 and didn't look back. The tank role as a whole is broken and receives constant glazing in the form of buffs,
I've never played Gun,
kits, and special mounts they get just for doing duties while existing as a tank. I figured, why continue being a second-class citizen when I could main a job that the devs actually like? And I think this switching of roles is what gave me the patience to keep playing for the majority of 6.0 to 6.5. But it wasn't enough. And unfortunately for the players, and very fortunately for me milking the hell out of this video's time duration, the Trinity system isn't the only thing showing a lack of effort from the devs. Perhaps one of the biggest so-called black pills in 14 is the slow removal of content over time. See, the whole idea behind having longer patch cycles and waiting longer for new content was that it would result in a better gaming experience. After all, what else are they doing with all that extra time? The answer may surprise you. Drum roll, please. They've added a grand total of exactly less content than you had in a 3-month patch cycle. You know, when I've had a long day of hard work, and I just need some time to unwind with my favorite MMO of all time, I love to go sit in my comfy chair, log in, and do nothing. God, I love doing nothing. How do the devs expect us to do all this nothing they're making for us? Sarcasm aside, I do see people questioning the devs' thought process all the time. Like, what do they see as the motivation to keep casual players logging in when there's nothing new to do for months at a time?
No, she's not wrong. I agree.
Because I'm 90% sure I have the answer. They are hinging their bets on the role-playing community. I genuinely think their idea is that enough people are going to reach enlightenment just by dressing up their cat girl and AFKing in Limsa Square with a dance emote. A paid dance.
My low-key hot take on this is, I think, and this is just me like theorizing here. My hot take about Final Fantasy XIV's lack of content is they expect players to go back and do old shit. There's a million things to do in the game, which really disrespects the players that have been there for a long time. Yes, there's a lot of content in this game. No one's saying that there isn't. But you take someone like her who's been playing a long fucking time. A lot. Again, there's someone who plays all the time. Players have been playing 10 years. They don't got a whole lot to do right now. Level their characters up. Do the raids on weekly. That's it. So I low-key think that they're expecting players to just go back and do old shit.
dance emote, by the way. Because let's not forget that putting emotes in the cash shop is way more profitable than turning it into an event reward. God forbid we make actual content for the game. Just make product and sell it as quickly as possible, or the shareholder might.
And with that much in there, I high-key think that it's time to remove the monthly subscription from them and Warcraft. Period, end point.
Loses erection. Yeah, man, the game devs do a little uptime maximizing of their own, and their motto is ABC. Always be cock-sucking. But the sad part is, they keep doing it because it works. There's a significant part of the player base that couldn't give a shit about the actual game. They just use it as their ERP hub and keep their sub active so they can find out what happens at the end of the Rogan game thing they started last Wednesday. Sprinkle a little cash shop slut glam on top, and you have Yoshi P's dream player right there. And let it be known that I'm not bidding on roleplay. I've done a little cringe activity back in my Tumblr heyday, but I'll be damned if I let Yoshi P prioritize the role-playing scene over actual content. The fact that a lot of people defend the cash shop is another debate entirely. Misshapen Chair made a great video on that, so check that out in the pinned comment if you want to hear my controversial take. I'm not getting into it here, but even if you ignore the paid emotes, paid outfits, paid dyes, paid mounts, you get the idea. Then you'll have to wrestle with the fact that the game objectively has less content than ever before. Let me give a brief
I'm not against the cash shop, but you can't have both.
Expert dungeons in a patch to only one. Whatever. Small potatoes, right? Just walk it off. And then we lost our job quests and got role quests instead. A decently sized blow.
I like the job quests.
And we would no longer be getting updates to the quests that embellish the job and class fantasy we were so drawn to in the first place. Were the role quests at least better written or longer? Not really, but I mean, there's so many jobs in the game. I guess it was too much to keep up with. And at least we still have our relic.
I like the job quests. I always like the job quests. I think the job quests are everything. I think job quests bring that uniqueness to the class. I think that it's something that needs to come back. I don't like the role quest that much. I said what I said.
Right? Isn't that something we can spend a lot of time having fun with in game? Sorry, man. About those relics. Yeah, those are just tomestones now. Yeah, you can just buy it by running the same 2 dungeons in expert roulette over and over again. Sorry. Is that disappointing? Don't worry, guys. We're working on new content. There's just so much other content we're developing. Can't you see? Look at how much content you have now. What are the new things?
And again, another really, really hot take. And this is coming from a Warcraft player. The legendary grind was just to keep you occupied. You're doing all kinds of random shit, but it's the same idea. It's still just grind. It's not actually new content. It's just grind. I'm gonna piss some people off with that one. I'm sorry.
We have? Well, we have Island Sanctuary, which turned out to be less like a farming simulator and more like a click and wait simulator. We also have Criterion Dungeons, which gave out less than stellar rewards. We also have new extreme trials. I mean, not really. They're just old extreme trials rebalanced for the current level cap, so we're just recycling old shit and putting mediocre rewards on it. But yeah, that's technically new. We're also getting seasonal events. Less and less, with each one taking less time than the one before it and offering increasingly worse rewards. And other than that, we have, hold on, let me just sift through my files here. We have, here it is. We finally put Hilda's hairstyle in the cash shop. What's that? Have we fixed the housing situation? Well, no, that's not.
Warcraft did.
Yeah, you do have to stay sub to keep your house, of course you do. Are you looking forward to getting new outfits and the dungeons and crafted gear? Don't go too crazy with your expectations there. The vast majority are just recolors and dyeable versions of old stuff. Do Viera and Hrothgar at least have hats yet? Oh yeah, it has been years by now. Hey man, the devs need 4 months between patch cycles. What are you, a slave driver? The trend is
I'm not
clear.
against 4 months.
You, as the player, are getting less and less content while putting in the same exact money you did when they were giving you more. And there are people out there who will tell
also
you
not
that
wrong.
wanting more is bad. That wanting more is asking for the game devs to be overworked and abused. Who are these mysterious individuals, the White Knights, who come to defend the billion-dollar company's honor? The legendary The fabled, the ever-present great community, by the way. That's right, if all of that wasn't enough, Final Fantasy XIV is backed up by a community that defends it from criticism as if 14 is the project of a few poor, underfunded indie devs instead of Square fucking
They're not.
Enix. The great community, by the way, gamer follows.
I've said it once, I'll say it again, I will say it every fucking time. Square Enix is not a person. They're not. They are a company. They are a corporation. Their entire goal in life is to make money. Is it with games that we might like? Yes. They're a corporation. Yoshi P, you don't know him. You don't. People who have gone on a date with him don't know him. They've been with him for 5 minutes. You could have watched every little thing he's ever put out. You still don't know who he is as a person.
A simple line of protocol. The DDD. Deny, dismiss, and downplay. That's a fun game you can do. See if you can spot the different types as we go along. The most infamous part of these specimens is their constant criticism of, quote, elitism within the game. Of course,
There's
to them, elitism is when you're semi-competent at playing. Asking for harder normal content so you don't fall asleep in dailies. Elitism. Asking for job complexity. Elitism. Asking for healers to have more DPS options. Believe it or not.
The first one borders it, not because, again, I agree there should be hard content. I should agree there should be hair-pulling what the fuck content. But I also agree that to get through the MSQ, you should have somewhat a balance of somewhat easy. Right? You want your players to get to endgame. You want them to hone their skills and get better. You want them to play. It's an MMO first. And part of that is when the community is together. It's that simple. So you do want your players to make it there. If they can't do it because it's nail-bitingly hard, you're not only going to lose a player, but that's another player that's not going to RP, put money into the shop, is going to spend time in your game. Make the world fuller, which is important for an MMO. So it is elitism to say you want that in regular content. Do I believe every single dungeon should have a heroic or hard mode? Yes. And you don't even have to redesign it. I want that just to tune up. I want the bosses to have one-shot mechanics. You know what I mean? Like, you can tune it up. But regular MSQ content shouldn't be that way.
Elitism. In their eyes, anything that doesn't cater to the lowest common denominator is for
The bell
elitist
curve.
scum. And you better believe that if you want to kick that healer from your party who's doing nothing but casting cure when you're already at full HP, you're just elitist, bro. You're not dead, so they're totes doing their job. How dare you ask for more from the player base? Stop being such an elitist, my guy. Not everyone wants to try hard by having a basic understanding of the game like you. They've done this since the dawn of the game, always hiding behind some corner, waiting for someone to make the grave error of asking for more difficulty or complexity. Then they jump out of the bushes to tell you that they know someone who's disabled, or someone who doesn't have a lot of time to play the games, or someone who only plays for the story. As if there aren't already solutions to every one of these problems. You suck at the game and don't want to burden anyone? Use trust. You're busy and you want to see just the story? Watch a playthrough of a...
Yes, trusts are an amazing solution. They should be there for all of the trials, every single one. Because again, you want to be able to complete the MSQ. So it's not a perfect solution. It's still a great solution. Once you can get it to everything, left to right, perfection. Then the ones you queue up for, no baby. Then you can go ham. Put it at fucking a 10. I don't care at that point. Then you really have that divide and it fits the bell curve. Most people can do the dungeon with trust without an issue, and you get your harder difficulty you've always wanted. So yes, it's cool to say that it is a solution. It isn't a solution today. It's a mostly solution, right?
Only the story parts. Dozens of those exist on this very platform. You're disabled but want to play with your friends? Why not try out Summoner, a very mobile job that can be played with one hotbar and controller. It's
Oh my
not that
God.
people don't want these accessibility options to exist.
She's picking on the
it's that
Summoner.
they don't want that to become the entire game. Future Lucy adding to this point. I really hate the accessibility argument that people make to defend the devs, because while I was putting together this video, I literally found a thread with about 80 pages worth of people talking about how the new graphics hurt their eyes and makes the game unplayable. These people have gone completely ignored, with not even a mention from the devs. And considering how easy it would be to add some settings to get rid of the bloom and maybe lower the brightness, I really don't know how you could actually believe they care about accessibility. Okay, back to the video.
That's true.
Just felt that deserved
That's
mentioning. But in
completely
the
correct.
eyes of the great
And
community,
colorblind
by
mode.
the way, this is toxicity. And asking for normal mode content to be anything more than a brain-dead slug is a sin. But they defend much more than the gameplay. They're also ride or die for the story, no matter how low it's fallen. Let's take Dawn
I really
Trail,
like Dawn
for
Trail, so this should be
example.
fun.
Twitter in particular was the Wook Lamont Defense Squad. Any criticism of her writing would get you called a plethora of insults. Illiterate,
depends.
brain rotted by TikTok, and edgelord. I'm pretty sure they just started pulling shit out of a hat.
Before she continues, remember, Wook Lamont suffered from bigotry. The most part, especially on fucking Twitter, the not site. It is what it is. That being said, there are some valid criticisms, but a lot of people aren't valid. A lot of people are like, I'm just going to skip everything that was put out in front of us and be like, I just don't like her. That's okay. And you don't like her. You know what I mean?
At some point. There were even people straight up calling the story brilliant and some of the best writing in the game. If you don't like
liked
you
it.
don't have an attention span. You're just a selfish brat who can't stand when the spotlight isn't on you. You're just a bigot. You hate women. You're a negative Nancy
Some
who
people
hates
did.
happiness. And if you're right and the story is mid and the quality is down, don't worry. They're just world building right now. It's impossible to make a good story in a new world, right? Let's ignore the fact that they literally did that with Shadowbringers. Let's make excuses for the writing team. Guys, have some
They didn't, though. They relied on characters of the past to build it up. This was the, you were literally bringing a story to a climax. Again, there's criticism to be made. That ain't fair. That's not a fair criticism of it at all. This is very much comparing it to ARR, not Shadowbringers. Jesus Christ, that's literally the other side of the world in comparison.
sympathy. It's really hard to sell books too, because all of them are required to world build for 400 pages before they make things interesting. That's why there's no such thing as a booming bookstore industry selling novels that only have one volume. This community made me feel genuinely gaslit about my experience with Dawn Trail. It wasn't just one or two people jumping to the game's defense, it was thousands. But if I had to summarize my thoughts on the story after giving it time, letting it sink in, and coming back to it with a clear head, it still felt like an insult to the player's intelligence.
That's
As
strong.
if it was asking you to forget every lesson you learned in each expansion up until that point and throw it all away, because this time, the happy and wholesome character will get exactly what they want, with no real, long-lasting consequences thrown their way. It was so antithetical to the worlds of Heavensward and Stormblood and Shadowbringers, to the point that I could not reconcile them. It legitimately
That's fair. That's actually a very fair criticism of Wook Lamont without saying anything about everything else. Did she eventually get everything without any consequences? The only thing she lost was her brother and her father. The only thing she had to give up was nothing. This is what she'd done her whole life. That's actually, I have to admit, solid criticism. Again, there are good criticisms of it.
killed my interest in the story. I'll pause my thoughts on Dawn Trail there, because this is more so about the toxic positivity the community throws at it, and other creators have already done a great job breaking it down, particularly Zepla's video, which I highly encourage you to check out if it.
Sorry, that was audible. Then terrible. No. No, 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 no. You do not get a transphobe to sit there and talk about the story with a trans main character, even if it's good. No. We don't support them on this channel. We never will.
the topic interests you. Her thoughts almost perfectly echo mine, so just imagine Zeppla saying it in a much whinier, annoying, and high-pitched voice, and then it's almost like you're still listening to a Lucy Pyre video. Does it end here? Do they at least know when to call it quits? Sure, they blow smoke up the gameplay and the story's ass, but surely they wouldn't defend something serious like, I don't know, a huge gaping security flaw? Nope. And strap in, because 14 players still stand in the way of the game's progress, even when it makes zero sense to do so. And I can prove it. They had one of their absolute greatest hits about 7 months ago, back when the devs rolled out their new blacklist system. For those of you who don't know, there's been some recent drama regarding data exploits, and without going into the nitty-gritty, here's what that means. Stalking you on your alts just became easy as hell for bad actors. Some absolute prophet, known as Fori Memory Sinar, hallowed be thy name, tried to warn the community at large about this, but they hated the Messiah because he told the truth. Oh no! Anyways, it's still miles and leagues better than the previous system where you couldn't get away from people even if you wanted to. They're blacklisted anyway, so what's it matter? It's no different from them having your loads down. People have been tracking other players for years. I'm sure my stalkers love watching me AFK and old Doffer 90s.
No, she's not wrong. This was bad. Really bad.
The people who would benefit from this the most are getting blacklisted anyway. If you're getting into situations where you're worried about people spreading slander about your alt accounts, even after you blacklisted them, you need to really touch grass and reevaluate your relationship with online games. This thread, for as important as the information within it turned out to be, only got 10 upvotes. Artwork of someone's borderline naked cat girl gets 100 times more, and the comments within
it's
the
a naked cat girl. Come on
all
now.
different ways of
Lucy,
saying,
you
no
know
one
that.
gives a fuck, or it's not a problem anyway, or yeah, it's a problem, but you're just being paranoid if you think people will actually stalk you. Comments filled with misinformation and people who have no clue what they're talking about. All things they said with confidence and upvotes before an actual stalking plugin was created and distributed publicly to players, forcing everyone to pay attention to the very real issue Square Enix had created. If you've
it's really real. It's a
situation
bad problem.
where you had to worry about your privacy in the online game that you used to unwind and relax, then congratulations. I envy you, but I am asking you to exercise a shred, a fucking modicum of empathy when I tell you that there are awful, terrible people out there who stalk harass and threaten over the most irrelevant shit.
Like, she's being very, very dramatic about it because she should be. This is fucking bad. It's very bad. It is so bad. It is incredibly bad.
You can think of undercutting on the market board, leaving a free company, having a bad day in Party Finder, rejecting someone who asked them to be their RuneScape girlfriend. All of these things have been reasons for stalking in-game. So I just want you to put yourself in their shoes.
And I'm an undercutter.
What if every time you wanted to have fun with your favorite game, someone came up to you and started giving you shit? What if no matter how many times you blocked them, they'd always have a new alt to troll you with? What if they somehow knew where you were in-game all the time? Wouldn't you just want some fucking privacy? Wouldn't you appreciate having a little bit of your anonymity back? If you can't understand why it's a problem, I can only assume one of two things. One, you're naive as hell, and you think evil people don't exist. Or two, you're a complete asshole who doesn't care about others, and you're arrogant enough.
You're not marginalized in any way. You're a man. That would have been my guess. She was going to say. Because I promise you, women know this. Trans people know this. LGBTQ plus people know this. Black people know this. It's not thing. Damn.
To think it could never happen to you. Well, for your sake, I hope you're right, because Square Enix has responded to the situation, and their response was, and I practically quote, please don't make plugins to stalk our users. That is very mean. We will sue. Future Lucy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
To let you know, they have addressed this issue again in the latest live letter, but it's still unclear if they have an actual plan to fix it, or if they're just reminding us that they know about it. At the very least, they don't seem to be in a rush to patch this out, so the point still stands. No fix for the exploit, no rushing to solve their security flaws, nothing that would actually solve the problem permanently. Because even though the plugin is no longer being distributed, they can't delete it from the people who already downloaded it. They can't stop people from making new copies. And hell, know. Even if they magically could, the security is so bad that all you need is fucking Wireshark to figure out what you need to know. So no, their response is not enough. It's a joke, and it shows zero consideration for the people playing their game.
I wish you wouldn't have said how to figure it out, though. I know it's not that hard to figure out. I just wish you wouldn't have said it.
I hate
Don't perpetuate
that this
it.
community dismisses real concerns until they're impossible to ignore. I hate that the person who whistleblowed this on Reddit was treated like a paranoid idiot. I hate that people defended the devs when they were objectively, factually undeserving of that defense. I
Correct.
hate how they are always standing in the way of this game's progress, as if 14 is this fragile being made of glass that will shatter if any criticism brushes its surface. But you know what? If 14 can't withstand criticism of a literal security flaw, then I don't think it deserves our money in the first place. We as a community need to be better. We deserve better. And we should be asking for better. Stop cutting yourself, grow some balls, and quit paying them the sub money that they're just gonna use to bend over and fuck your cat girl wife with. Demand security, because it's the bare
Security's
minimum
important.
you deserve. This
Agreed.
game is never, and I do mean never, going to improve as long as the player base is happy to consume whatever slop the devs dish out. Thankfully, the sheer number of people talking about the decline of this game and the dwindling sub numbers gives me hope that the tides are finally shifting, that players are starting to wake up to the problem that's been staring them in the face for so long, and that problem is this. Many of us sense no love or passion from the game devs. And sure, maybe we're looking in the wrong places. Maybe there are nuggets of careful thought and planning somewhere in the overarching scheme of things. But do we see it in the outdated character creation? Do we see it in the writing? Do we see it in the job design? The answer may shock you, but no. They're giving us the same old content cycle we've had since A Realm Reborn. New expert dungeon, new extreme trial, new 24-man raid, new 8-man raid, go try hard savage, go try hard the shiny new ultimate, with very little mid-core content to feed those in between. Or even casual content in Dawntrail's case. The gear farm is the same as ever.
She's
and
right.
as stingy as ever, not allowing you to try new jobs in endgame without investing your limited resources into it. Fuck with the way tomes are done in this game, I feel like Final Fantasy XIV is a gacha game and I just hit my Battle Pass weekly XP limit. Why the hell am I paying a monthly subscription for a free-to-play experience? If the devs want us to be able to play every job on one character, then why can't they put their money where their mouth is and fix the gear problem? The game devs
Not
are
wrong.
playing a type of gay chicken with all of us. Yeah, I said it. Just instead of making homoerotic eye contact, they're trying to see how little they can give before you finally break away. And can you blame them? Why would you try new things if people are paying for the old? Why work harder when you can make up the missing sub money in cash shop sales? Why give a when the shareholder has lined pockets and fat stomachs? When Square Enix takes the money this game makes and shuffles it into other, less successful projects? And in that same vein, I feel terrible on the behalf of the devs who do put in effort, only to not be rewarded for it, only to have the profits they made siphoned into projects that have nothing to do with them.
That's
can
how
be
companies
demotivating
work.
for anyone, and Square Enix needs to do better by them as well. The devs of this game can be better because they have been better. This is a verifiable fact. They have made fun and engaging jobs in the past. They have made challenging content. They have added events that give cosmetics instead of shuffling them into their cash shop. They can do it again, but they won't unless the numbers speak. They won't unless Tanaka shareholder's son starts knocking on their front door or back door. I'm not sure which position Japanese game devs prefer. At least at Blizzard, I heard they like doing it with milk or something. Whatever the point is, with all
Facts.
of the doom posting about sub numbers and game dissatisfaction going around, I want to encourage you to do just one thing. Don't pity the devs. Don't pity Yoshi P. Don't feel bad that the game is declining, or that sub numbers are dwindling, or that most people who talk about the game only have negative things to say these days. Don't sink into paranoia that the game is going to die if you criticize it, because the irony is that if you don't, it probably fucking will. Join them, add to the voices speaking out, and then maybe, just maybe, Final Fantasy XIV will go back to being a game worth making videos about, worth playing, worth investing time into, and absolutely worth making sexy femboy alts to ERP with. Yeah, I do want this game to struggle. I want people to speak up loud and clear about the problems they have with it. I want to see the consequences of years worth of bad decisions pile up on the devs, and I want them to feel the full weight of it on their shoulders, not because I'm a WoW Andy who jumps shit, not because I'm a shitster who loves to see people suffer, but because I'm a proud and 14 player, and I refuse to stand for what my game has shit the bed and fallen into. If a period of low numbers in sales is what we need to get back on track, then I welcome it with open arms. I want to see these capable game devs wipe the dirt off, roll their sleeves up, and get back to cooking some real gamer shit. In conclusion, Mikodes, get money by canceling your sub.
We're gonna stop it there because this is fan service and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? It's the end of my video on this. So she's got some really good points, she's got some really off points. Like most people, it's hit or miss. The biggest point I wish more people were talking about was the security. She is correct. She is 1000% correct on that point. But I think it's got a lot to do with vision of where the game should go and wants to go and financially should go. I think those are three different conversations that people trying to mash together, and it's not working. It's not. It's just a reminder, everything is a bell curve, right? The top raters want more top rating content. Don't feel like it's enough, which I agree with them. There isn't enough raid content. More new players coming in don't want a uphill battle to be able to get to the MSQ so they can play with their friends. I understand that. I agree with that. And the other opposite is she's right. There's no mid-core content at all. What do you do in the middle? So there's definitely some changes that do need to be made. And she was respectful for most of them. Again, the few comments that I was really offset were some of the stuff at the beginning where the understanding of how stuff's made for money, which it's definitely not like that, especially not for this game. But other than that, excellent video, honestly, truly. But again, it's Lucy. It's what we expected. And like usual, I agree here, disagree there. So again, thank you for being here. Have a legendary day, and I can't wait to see you guys again on the next one. Fuck Mikodes, get money. That's gotta be a bumper sticker. Just saying.